TitleMatchNetwork.com. TitleMatchNetwork.com.
Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot Interview Series. Today we are joined by none other than PN News. Thanks for being here today with us.
Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo.
My first question is, how did you get started in the wrestling business? Were you a fan growing up?
Yeah, I was a fan growing up. I played college football. When I quit college football, I was traveling up through Big Ten country up in Wisconsin, visiting some friends that were playing for the University of Wisconsin. A guy by the name Rick Graff, Bob Streeter. I walked into a bar called Buck's Madison Square Garden, and when I walked in there, I was having a good time that night. I ended up helping throw somebody out, and the guy hired me on the spot. The guy that owned it hired me on the spot, and I worked there for a couple months just during the summer while I was up there. And I remember there was an incident, and I threw like 4 guys out at one time, and I was out in the street. The fight tried to pursue out in the street, and I broke it up out there, and there were these big, huge plate glass windows, and so everybody in the bar was seeing what was going on, and I leapfrogged over like the trunk of a car, and when I came back into the bar after breaking the whole thing up, the place just erupted. It was like, wow, they went crazy, and I was talking to a guy named Bob Matson. He was a state treasurer for Minnesota at the time, and he'd asked me if I'd ever thought about being a professional wrestler, and I said no. And he gave me his card, and he said, "Well, if you ever think about it, get in touch with me." And I got lots of connections up in Minneapolis. Of course, that was AWA at the time, and we're talking like 86, 87. And he goes, so I called him about 2 months later, and he said, "Well, I'm on a hunting trip this week. Come over next week, and we'll have a talk." So I drove from Madison, Wisconsin to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and basically Bob sponsored me and put me through Brad Regan' camp there, which was associated with the AWA, and I was there. I used to, you went 5 days a week, basically. You went either 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours at night, and I chose to go 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours at night, and tried to take advantage of being trained, because it was whether I went 2 hours or 4 hours, it was the same money,
Right.
So I took advantage of it and started with the AWA in March that year. Was my first match on March 3rd. I remember wrestling in the Minneapolis auditorium. So.
Was the training more difficult than you thought, or was it?
No, I played college sports and stuff like that, so it wasn't. I was expecting it to be, we were doing squats and everything like that. I was expecting it was just like doing amateur sports. Anybody who's done any kind of amateur sports is, they know about it. I think back then the business was a lot different. You know what I mean? There's a lot of other doors that are open to anybody who wants to be a wrestler today than there was back then in the late 80s.
Memories of as far as the training goes, what was harder for you to pick up? Was psychology or bumping or?
God, it's a good question actually. I don't know. I think psychology is probably going to be harder than anything. I mean, I was an athlete anyway, so the bumping was okay. I mean, I learned how to do the break fall pretty quickly, and I mean the big thing about getting in the business back then is when you started this job, you were wrestling 300 days, a year at least. And in fact, when I was out in Portland, I went nine months without getting a single day off. You know what I mean? So you had that experience, so it was really easy to pick it up. And I was young at the time; I was 19, so it was easy to pick up stuff like that. So I mean, I think it all kind of fell together, all basically at the same time.
Memories of your first match?
My first match. I blew up. I was supposed to do about 8 minutes. I did about 4 minutes. And I'm trying to think of the guy's name right now. I wish I could, because I got a lot of respect for it, because he carried me. He carried me through that match. I walked to the ring as one of the Guardian Angels, and I came out of the ring. Rick Gantner, that's who it was. Rick Gantner was my first match, and he carried me for the 4 minutes that we did, and it was.
That's for Vern, right?
Yeah, that was for Vern in the Minneapolis auditorium, and I was just green, and I had no idea what I was doing, but thank God I had Rick, there for me,
Did you have any interaction at all with Vern back in the day, or?
Yeah, I knew Vern, you know what I mean? We do the interviews and stuff like that. Vern was always around. Vern, he was passionate about the job. What else can you say about him? You know what I mean? The guy was an amateur wrestler in the 40s, and he was he was something else. He was you'd have to say he was a little bit arrogant.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.